Tony, with the Module C one, it's a good question. Should you make a judgment? I think what you should do is make an observation and kind of leave the reader to ponder something like, oh, maybe I have to consider that. So it's like, leave us with something to think about. Don't assert something at the end. Oh, so this is the case. It's more like, hey, so this is what I've realized. This is my experience. Perhaps this is the way things are. But it's like, it's perhaps, it's maybe. It shouldn't be assertive. I would do that more for the persuasive, as suggested there. I have a prepared discursive, but have an imaginative first paragraph, then goes into the thought process of the character where I write my discursive. Sure. Do you think this would pass? Yeah, it's a little bit contrived, right? Because you're trying to wedge the pre-prepared discursive into an imaginative, which I fully get, by the way, and I actually think you're on the right track there. What I would say though is it's probably not enough to just have a different opener, because obviously if you're doing an imaginative, you need some kind of plot. You need to establish some kind of setting, some kind of characterization that you might not otherwise have, right? That's unique to an imaginative piece. You've got to have some kind of plot, but it doesn't have to be a significant plot. It's just one moment in time. I would make that moment in time relevant to I would actually frame it in a way so that you can easily segue into what you wanted to talk about with the discursive. But one thing I would say is I would probably try and be a little bit more careful and deliberate about the way that I link what I wanted to say in my discursive back to the setting that you established in the first paragraph, right? So you have a new opening that clearly makes it sound like an imaginative. You're using lots of imagery. You're describing the setting. I know where your character is, okay? But then you segue into like how they're reflecting on a particular issue or something, right? So make sure you transition from a real world setting, a physical setting. You transition from that into the character's thoughts if your discursive is about their contemplation of something, and then every now and then bring it back to that real life setting that you established at the beginning. So like maybe they awaken from their thoughts because of the sound of the birds outside or something, right? Like something like that. Think about a premise that kind of makes sense with what you want to talk about, but make sure that you're occasionally going back to the outside world so that you can still engage with the imagery and the setting so that it is a bit more believable as an imaginative. Okay, so that's all I would add. I would say it's probably not enough just to have the start. Try and have a couple of moments. They only have to be little moments. They're just little one-liners, or not one-liners, but 1 to 3 sentences maybe that occasionally you incorporate throughout, that just shows the character going in and out of their thoughts. Okay, so when they're out of their thoughts, there's something on the outside world that's happening that should probably connect to what they're thinking about or how they're feeling. Try and match the environment that you portray to the character's feelings. But good to have a discursive. The discursive translates to the persuasive very easily. You just need to make it more definitive, higher modality. Make sure you're not using things like perhaps, maybe, I thought about this. It's more assertive and you're stating something, right? Use a little bit more repetition than you otherwise would. Use a rhetorical question or two in your opening paragraph for the persuasive. Okay, engage the reader directly. You might do that in your discursive already, but saying you and your, using those second person pronouns, is going to help.